Hey everybody, this is our 14th session of Rogue Trader tonight. Last session got a little dicey. The rest of the crew took it upon themselves to, create a little mayhem, maybe kill a couple of people. They were probably bad people, so it probably works all out in the end. Venari was bothered from his night of leisure. He ran in, pitching up a fit. Got into a pissing match with the local PDF guy, uh, Roderick, whatever his last name is, Honingsberg.
Honingsberg, he is not a PDF idiot.
No,
He's
no.
he's in charge of the planet.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say.
He's the governor of the planet,
Yeah,
or
Roderick shows up, and of course he's pissed off as well because it's the middle of the night. People are on fire, like it's a whole thing.
As they tend to be in every Warhammer 40K game, people tend to be on fire.
So we were disarmed and driven to the palace in a limo. So it wasn't like under the worst of circumstances, but we are more or less under house arrest at the Honingsberg mansion. So we'll
fairly accurate.
See what happens.
All right. I wasn't. You mentioned that we may have faded to black as you were walking into the palace last episode, in which case we're going to smash cut to Roderick's, let's say, private meeting room. It's not like the ballroom or the dining room. It's part study / library / conference room kind of deal. So there's obviously like there's a ton of books and stuff. The chairs are, everything's fairly regal in general. Clearly, they have wealth. And besides just, I know I don't know how many sessions we've been on this planet, but if people have forgotten, it's sort of not empire level technology on this planet in general, but the palaces and kind of elite guard have, like plasma weapons and significantly higher level technology than, say, the general populace. Some of which are even like, just like farmers that are using like maybe some industrial machinery, like 20th century almost machinery. So the palace reminds you a lot more of sort of imperial facilities, at least as far as technology and level of ludicrous, just like grandiosity in general. Roderick, is middle-aged, obviously in good shape. He carries a power sword and a plasma pistol, which clearly, shows his significance to the rest of the community. Very well dressed, well appointed, sort of a functional regality, like almost like military sort of garb with like a large cloak. So he's definitely an imposing figure if you, kind of were a general citizen, kind of the like, kind of slicked back sort of salt and pepper hair. Definitely looks like someone that doesn't often get trifled with, and used to getting what he wants. He's seated at a large, not a throne, just a large ornate chair, sort of at the head of a conference table. You are seated around the table. They have several servants that have come by and there's water and that sort of stuff. But there's also they've poured sort of a local wine of some sort, and he's had sort of like finger food type stuff brought by the kitchen staff, and so he's kind of silent for a minute and looking over the room before he says, "So you seem to cause quite a stir in the community in more ways than one. I had heard a ship from the Imperium had docked. I was letting the Imperial functionaries handle it. I hear that was a friendly enough exchange." He looks at Venari. "I had hoped that would be all, and that my hand would not need to be forced to intervene, that we would simply go on as we did before the storm. But it seems you couldn't stay out of trouble. And based on how you look, I'm going to assume you're not. Well, I'll cut to the chase. I have registries of writs of trade, so clearly I know you're a rogue trader and used to getting what you want, but this is my planet. I won't let you wholesale slaughter religious leaders and cause complete chaos. I'd like to at least hear your version of the story before I make any rash judgments."
So Venari just kind of squints at Jarnan and the rest of the crew.
By the way, he also does have two, like there's a door behind him that's like, you don't know where it goes, but there's like two guards in like full like heavy carapace with plasma rifles and like a bandolier of like plasma grenades.
Yeah, so he just looks and he kind of settles back in the chair and he says, we had wished for the same thing. The Imperium had approached us when it was noticed that the storm had receded and wished to renew contact and have the grain shipments fulfilled again. The planet was a good producer by all records that they had. Our intentions, and he, again, kind of like cocks his head to the rest of the crew, was not to cause any undue stress for anyone here. It was unfortunately noted, however, that the grain, at least some of the grain, had been subtly tainted by the warp. This was something that I had wished to bring to your attention under better circumstances than what we find ourselves in now. But my navigator, and he kind of points over to Kynnoch, assures me that there is definitely a strange taint here that perhaps you have been unaware of.
Of course, I would never, as you point out, allow corruption from chaos or the warp, the entities therein, to taint our community, our tithe to the Imperium. Of course. I must question, though, you wanted to bring this to my attention, but instead It seems perhaps you're not in control of your men as a captain would or should be. They simply are allowed to go off and wholesale slaughter in a temple, sacred temple. Regardless of your claims, you should still. I can't perhaps impugn on your rights as a rogue trader, but you still must answer to the law of my planet, imperial law or otherwise. So we're at somewhat of an impasse because I can't certainly have a ship's crew land on the planet, murder our citizens, those held in high regard by the community, and let that simply pass. I assume you understand my position here as the leader of this planet, that I can't simply allow that to pass unpunished.
I think,
So-
oh,
No, go ahead.
Kynnoch will kind of clear his throat in an attempt to get attention.
Yep. He looks
And-
over. Roderick looks at him.
Perhaps it is that you have been so detached from civilization and from the Imperium for so long, but you speak of law and you speak of order and control. And yes, while it is true that you do run this small establishment, you forget that you are still part of the Empire, and you might lead here, but you do not lead the Empire. That is up to the God King. That is not your role. And if you will notice, and he will gesture over to the why can't I remember your name now, Bessie? Jarnan. I had it. He'll gesture over to Jarnan, and he's like, "Here we have the mouthpiece, the light. He is a piece of the divine. Do you think that your rule, that your law, is higher than his?"
He glares at you, very stone-faced.
Venari glares.
And you notice you see just like seething rage behind his face, but he keeps it
little smirk on Kynnoch's face,
just enough together to reach down and very, very slowly take a sip of the wine, set it back down, and sort of cracks his neck and leans back. I'm aware that I am a citizen of the Empire, the Imperium of humanity, and one of its agents. And not only that, one of its leaders. You insult my name and my legacy, calling us this small community. And who are you? You are but some freak who sees into the warp at the bidding of this captain. You're simply a tool necessary for the Imperium to function. Don't lecture me on my role as an Imperial citizen. Do not question my authority on this planet, as it is given directly by the God Emperor himself. I have divine right to rule over this land, more so than any of you have a divine right to go about whatever business rogue traders, scrupulous or otherwise, get into. And as for him, he is but a missionary. He is but a pawn in the ecclesiarchy. Sure, many of them, they have fire in their bellies, looking for heresy at every step. But he is not a high priest. He is not an inquisitor. Show me a rosette. Show me you're even a member of the Inquisition. You can't challenge my authority here. The best you can do is ask for forgiveness for your actions. You may, as a rogue trader crew, be able to leave with your lives without my mercy. That would be the best of outcomes for you. But I would suggest we try to work together and be civil to one another. I don't wish to have to contact anyone in the Administratum. I don't wish to speak to the ecclesiarchy as far as what rogue members of your crew have decided to do completely without any intervention from local law enforcement or even reaching out to me. I would have definitely heard you out. I would have been clearly willing to hear your story. But instead, you decide to go and murder my citizens? It seems absurd that you feel like you can talk down to me. You're the one sitting around this table without any weapons. Clearly, we aren't a bunch of backwater yokels, as you may infer. We have imperial technology. The royal family is quite rich with both thrones and technology. We were well favored by the God Emperor. So who are you to question me? And more importantly, Lord Captain, who are you to let your men speak to the governor of this fine imperial haven as if I were nothing but the shit on the boot of some peasant? I'd ask that you control your men, or I will control them for you.
He, like you see his jaw clench. He doesn't say anything. He kind of leans forward and he laces his hands on the table. Tries to, he takes a moment to, so he doesn't say anything stupid. And he's just ultimately, a captain is responsible for his men and their actions. I give my crew maybe more leeway than most. It keeps them engaged. It gives them a sense of purpose. I'm sure you can understand that. The Navigator, and he kind of half waves a hand over to Kynnoch, is quite fiery in his way. And I'm sure he meant no disrespect. And just glares daggers to Kynnoch.
I'll definitely have kind of like a...
Yeah, I figured, yeah. When I received a transmission from my missionary, he informed me that the high priestess had used some sort of psi power against him. Jarnan, perhaps you can rationally discuss what took place so we can come to the bottom of this. Surely we don't want to bother Roderick with any more than we need to, and hopefully that we can come to a suitable conclusion for everyone.
Yes, enlighten me, cleric of the God Emperor's light. Please.
We didn't intend what happened in the Queen Mother's chambers. We simply went to interrogate her to get all of the information before we brought it before you. Information that you clearly did not have in regards to the Queen Mother being tainted by the warp. Upon questioning her, she lashed out and tried to control my mind, which the God Emperor did not allow her to do. I felt that she was too much of a threat to stand further on this planet. I was afraid that she would take control of one of my weaker-minded crewmates. So I burned her, and I purified her, something that you apparently were unwilling to do. No disrespect.
He grinned when you said weak-minded, and like he looks over at Kynnoch and kind of grins. And then when you say burned her, his face sours quickly. You say I'm unwilling to have done anything about some corruption right under my nose. And it's only convenient that it's your word against that of a dead woman. A woman who has dedicated her life, as far as I have known, to providing the tithe, even though your ships have not come. She has remained loyal to creating the tithe, to harvesting it, to feeding the people. And yet you claim I'm unwilling to sacrifice her without any evidence? None of my citizens have have ever admitted any suspicion of the Harvest Mother, of her, the members of her church, of the workers in the fields. All of this, to me, is hearsay. You have not proven a thing. And yet you accuse me of doing nothing.
If I may speak, good king, I actually have a good amount of evidence, if you would be willing to go for a quick drive.
Okay, let's, if you would like to, absolutely. Unlike many of you, it seems, I'm willing to put my self where my mouth is. I will back up my statements. I'm more than willing to listen to your concerns. However, I would also bring my own cadre of experts in order to confirm anything you say. I assume that's more than acceptable to you if what you're saying is the truth.
Absolutely. I was actually going to recommend it. I would not trust us if I were you either. So I was actually going to suggest you bring your own people to double check our claim. My claim is simple. We go look at the tithe. You have your people check it out and see that it has been tainted by the warp. Quite a bit, actually. And then, once you see this evidence, if we may, my compatriot here did not only sense the Queen Mother, but also a stronger warp entity. And with your allowance, I would ask that we are allowed to hunt down this stronger warp creature and take care of that for you as well.
An even greater threat in the shadows, eh? Sure, certainly. Let's find out. I will leave you. I'll have my men escort you to your quarters. Refresh yourselves however you like. I'll gather my warp attuned enlisted, and I'll summon you shortly. We'll go walk the tithe, as you say.
That sounds amazing. May I request one further allowance when we go check this tithe?
I'm not sure we're in that position, but go ahead. You can make the request. Whether I grant it is to be seen.
May you bring a couple more guards with you and have them carry our weapons. In case something does happen, we will at least be able to protect ourselves and you, Your Majesty.
I'll consider it.
That's all I ask.
He nods. The two guards, one of them you see like touch sort of a communicator. He kind of comm beads. A contingent of well-armed soldiers come in through the door you came through, not the one that the guards were guarding, and kind of motion for you to follow them to your quarters.
I think so. I'm assuming like if we don't check in at some point, it could turn out poorly. Like we didn't establish, like we don't have
check in
like to the ship, right? So like if they don't hear from us, we don't have like a procedure in place, right? Like we haven't established this sort of thing before.
No, you could.
I mean, because I'll
let you say if you have some reasonable expectation that your crew would do a thing without having this happen in an amount of time, I'll let you have that protocol in place. Sure. As long as it's not insane, like, if you don't hear with me in 48 hours, destroy the planet.
Right. No, I don't know, like, I assume there's somewhat regular communication between the crew and the ship. Like, so as they run scans and they're like doing their daily stuff, they're like, oh, Captain, blah, 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 whatever. Or it's like, oh, hey, I'm bringing dinner down. So like, I won't be back tonight.
Sure.
But, I'll check in to see.
Yes, you were communicating with them pretty recently, actually, right? So earlier in the night, you had them bring a shuttle down. Your shuttle has a long-range communicator. Your comm bead cannot reach the ship. Yeah. But you'd need like the long-range antenna or long-range comm relay to be able to do that to the ship.
Right.
And
the skull couldn't do it either, right? The skull would be close range.
No. Yeah, no. The only way you're going to get communication to the ship is through either a ship-based communication device, because that's meant to do that.
Right.
Or a, land to air, land to, like the docking, the dock clearly has that kind of communications. I'm sure
he's got something.
Someone here somewhere in the palace, there's definitely communications that can reach orbit for sure. Or you need an astropath. That also works. You probably are more likely to gain access to a physical comm relay than you are an astropath willing to betray whoever's in charge. But you could try if you find an astropath, I'm sure.
When the shuttle came down, did we send it back up, or is it still down planet side?
I think they were chilling there.
Yeah, they were staying, but you also got stuff delivered from the ship. So another shuttle came down. Now, I don't know if they went back up. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But you brought like a whole thing. So less than 4 hours ago, you had a ship. You said, ship, bring down stuff.
Yeah.
So, as far as they're concerned, shit's just peachy because you're using your fancy ship resources to get laid, and they don't expect to hear from you till next morning. So nothing. They're definitely not going to be like, "Hey, we haven't heard from anybody," because they definitely heard from you. I don't know if your chef shuttle. I would assume they went back.
Probably went back, yeah.
But even then, by the time you did dinner, blah, 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 then you ended up getting interrupted and going there. Like, they had, they probably made it back and were just getting, they're still doing shit. So you haven't been out of communication for long.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Just establishing a timeline to see. So, yeah, we'll let it go for now. But then, the longer this goes on, then, he would suggest at some point that, he'd be able to access, communicator to let the ship know that we're being, graced with his hospitality sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, you'd have to find a way to do that at the moment. So you'd have to sneak around to do it. Or
no, I would ask him flat out. Yeah. He could just stand there. That would be his thing.
Oh, you're going to ask him to use to communicate to the ship?
Yeah, probably not now then, right? So if it's only been a couple hours, then they're probably not expecting us to do anything. But in the morning, when they were roused, he'd be like, "Hey, probably check in," and you can
definitely do that. Yeah, you can definitely ask for that. In the morning. He's not super pissed. It seems that he has to go dick around in some fucking fields at fucking butt crack of midnight, but
So we're all together, right? So we've been left, I guess, just the four of us standing around.
You're in individual quarters.
Okay.
Yeah. Individual quarters. They are locked. And they're locked. That's all you know because you're inside. You still have no. They would have taken your microbeads. They basically have clothes they let you have, obviously. Anything that you would have with you, clothing wise. You have a fully functional and very nice, even for it's palace guest accommodations. It's not like a brig or anything. This is guest bedrooms in a palace bedrooms that you are in. Yes, the doors are sealed, locked. But there's even changes of clothes for kind of the local style. There's full on bathroom, very nice accommodations actually. But yes, the only thing they've left you of your equipment would be clothing, any additional clothing you might have. But as far as equipment, they would have had that held separately.
So do I still have the skull then? Because it was clearly with me.
They're not gonna take a servo skull from a rogue trader captain, probably.
Okay. I mean, I probably put the chain lock on the fucking last pistol or whatever. Not that they would probably be all too concerned with the last pistol, but
they put a blanket on his head like a parrot.
Yeah, I'm not sure they would have taken that from you per se because it's I don't know. It's not really a
status thing.
It's kind of it's just kind of you're a rogue trader captain. It's well, if I take his gun, that makes sense because he might shoot me, but taking a servo skull is kind of insulting to her. That would be kind of insulting to a rogue trader captain. You still have some prestige, and he's kind of that's fine. So yeah, that goes. Can I get a check from Kynnoch for shit. I'm blanking on the name.
Senescence?
Senescence.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. That goes off perception. All right. That is an 81 out of 58.
Okay. Got fate points.
I'm not sure I want to waste them just yet.
Okay.
Okay.
I only have 2.
I probably should have just rolled it myself so you didn't know what you roll, but
I don't know the game. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't detect anything particularly strange. That's all. Yeah, he gives you half an hour to freshen up. You hear knocks on your doors. All right, let's get on. Let's get moving, guys. That's clearly a guard's voice. You don't hear his voice.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we all file out into the hallway then.
All right.
I'm gonna grab Venari a little bit back. I'm assuming there's guards around us, but I want to grab him real quick and just say, Captain, of the things that the three of us saw and discussed amongst ourselves and with the Harvest Mother, should we keep those to ourselves, or should we also discuss with the people around us? So any of the information that myself and Kynnoch and Jarnan saw or assumed in that room, should we keep that to ourselves, or should that be more widely disseminated?
Well, I believe we have all cards on the table at this point. Roderick is certainly unhappy with our behavior. So we should use everything at our disposal to convince him that we are in the right.
Okay. And then I'll just step back in line and keep walking.
Okay. The guards kind of shuffle you through the palace, kind of winding hallways.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So it seemed like he had some kind of weird Eldar shit on him. His pistol was like an Eldar pistol or something like that. I think you'd first.
Yeah, he does have a Zeno. Yeah, I forgot I said that. Yes.
So as we were walking before, and then kind of as we're walking out, can I make an awareness to see if there's any other weird Xenos, either artifacts, objects, or art, or some some indication of this guy's maybe got some other contacts or whatever.
Sure.
All right. Let's see. Awareness. This perception 37's not terrific. Let's see what happens. 85. He doesn't see shit.
Yeah, you don't notice anything else other than his pistol. It is a plasma-based pistol, but it's you did notice it was Eldar in design, most likely. Which is
I think that's what you said. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I definitely did mention that. I just forgot that I did that because I didn't make a note of it, and that was not something I made notes of. Yeah, but he does have that.
Okay, so Venari doesn't have art history, so he just, if it's there, he just doesn't, it fucking glosses over.
Yeah, or you at least don't, as you're walking through, you don't see it. You just don't see anything that particularly
stands out
as Xenos in origin.
Okay.
So, all right. They take you as you're walking through. They have sort of, APC type PDF vehicles. So the Personal Defense Force has these personnel carriers. They ask you to get into, split between two of them. Roderick's there. He will be in the lead one with the captain of the guard, or at least you assume the captain of the guard is the most decorated of the guards. He motions for Venari Emmaus because he was quiet.
He hasn't pissed him off yet.
Like, he's the one that wasn't a dickhead, so he was like, I don't mind him.
I've scribbled some stuff down, so we'll see how that goes in the next few minutes.
You guys in his, and asks the other two to go to the other one. I assume you put up no resistance.
No. When we get to the vehicle too, Kynnoch will step back and gesture to Venari, like, after you, sir. Wordless, but like with a
He just nods, like slight incline of the head to you as he, brushes forward and gets into Roderick's vehicle.
All right. So there is Kynnoch and Jarnan's vehicle is all guards, like just dude guards, regular guards. Roderick's vehicle, with the other two crew members, has two cloaked figures that you assume. I'm going to say Kynnoch doesn't have to make a check. They're definitely psychers.
Really?
Of some sort. Well, I mean, someone who you just said you got to detect warp taint, so he had to have a psyker with him to do it. So you don't know what their role is. They could be astropaths. They could be psychers, like tech psychers. They could be navigators potentially, but you don't recognize any symbology on their robes to indicate as such. Not sure why you would send a navigator per se either, because that's not really their role. He wouldn't necessarily have navigators on hand if he doesn't have ships that he takes.
Right. Is there any? Sorry,
you definitely feel like psyker presence from them.
Yeah.
As well as a couple guards, but.
Ooh, no. Is there? I'm not sure if I even necessarily have to make a check with this.
Okay.
But I'd like to kind of make eye contact with one of the psychers. How many?
Okay.
All right. First off, can I make a check to see how many I detect? Like, I know I kind of get the R.
Yeah, you can do a senescence check.
Yeah, so I'll do that to see if I can single out any of them.
Sure.
Let's see. Ooh, that is a 9 out of 58.
You are able to get a very clear bead on the warp energies off of the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, you detect one of the cloaked figures to be a psyker. The other, you get no psyker vibe off of. And one of the guards that's just in a regular guard uniform. That's also going in the lead vehicle. You detect warp powers.
Okay.
So, I guess you can, I don't know if you have, it's not saying something crazy to say, like, clearly if you have two mysterious cloaked figures and only one of them is a psyker and you have another psyker that looks like a guard,
right?
It's kind of a, like a disguise type,
right,
keep you on your toes type deal.
I'm assuming that I can make the assumption that either A, they cloaked two with only having one, figuring like we'll think we're outnumbered, or they also put the other guy, put the other psyker in just regular guard clothes to hide and put him with the other people to hide that fact.
Yeah, either one, totally possible.
Yeah. I'll make eyes with the one that the one that I now, the cloaked guy I know is not a psyker.
Okay.
I'll kind of just look at him and give him kind of like a bead.
Okay.
The other one I'll then quickly turn to, kind of like give him a little bit of a nod. And in my Navigator secret tongue,
Okay.
just say, "Hail, brother."
He just kind of scrunches his face like, hmm? And then kind of shakes his head and keeps going.
So then in High Gothic, I will say, depressing. Figuring that they probably don't speak that as well, but I know that I know that Jarnan does. So
yeah, nothing else. Yeah, you don't notice anything else.
Yeah.
Weird from anybody. I assume if everyone is aboard, you'll go to the site, the grain storage silos, and
Yeah, on the way, Venari tries to be chatty and charming and, apologetic and, this is, such an unfortunate situation. Sometimes the crew gets a little out of hand, blah, blah. Like he would just try to be as disarming and smarmy as he normally is in these situations.
Sure. Okay.
So when we were in with the Harvest Mother, I think Kynnoch was saying that he felt the warp shrink back a little bit afterwards. He felt the warp tape shrinking back. And I think you said that we were in the west of the planet. So was the warp taint shrinking back towards the east, or it was just shrinking back from...
Other way around. You guys were east of the bubble.
Okay.
And he felt sort of a contraction of warp energies pulling toward the west.
Towards the west. Okay, I gotcha.
Into the mountains.
Into the mountains.
Desert.
Okay. So while we're going over and Venari's chatting, I'll just kind of say, Your Majesty, some of the anomalies we felt when speaking with the Harvest Mother pointed towards the west of the planet. How often does the Harvest Mother or the previous leader, Marsden, how often do they go out west towards the mountains, or are they located just here in the city by you?
Can't imagine why they would. It's wastelands out there, desert. There's nothing to harvest, certainly no region to grow, nothing to expand into even for the fields. We have what we need, but if they were looking to expand, they would certainly be better served going, north or south of the current fields. Can't imagine. I've, of course, never heard of it. I don't keep particularly detailed records of where each of them travels. I wasn't suspicious of them, but can't imagine they would go that way.
Is there anything out towards the west in the mountains, or is it just untamed lands?
Again, deserts, rocks, very desolate area. There, I suppose, are some cave systems. Nothing mineable in them, though. We generally, travel around them, not for any particular reason. They don't seem dangerous, but there's no real reason for us to bother either.
I would just... I know your patience with myself and my two compatriots is probably at a low ebb right now for the actions that have taken place, but I would just point out that they're both good men, and once we're done investigating here, I would recommend too strong of a word, Your Majesty, but I would hope that we could take a look out west, because there definitely seems to be something going on out there that doesn't fit in with everything else, the functioning of everything else around here.
What's your name?
My name is Emmaus Core, sir.
It's a pleasure. Just like to say I appreciate your candor, and I also appreciate your deference and respect to the position that I hold. I feel like maybe you should teach some of your other compatriots that lesson. I like you. I'll think about it. But that's why I chose you to come with the captain here. Don't like troublemakers, and like people that know how things work.
So
It seems like you've taught him well. He looks at Venari.
Well, some of them are more malleable than others.
I would just like to put in a good word for my fellow crewmen in the other transport, that they may seem a bit rough around the edges, but they know their duty and they stick to it. And the decisions that we had taken and the actions that happened were in keeping with the writ of our rogue trader and for the glory of the God Emperor.
He raises an eyebrow. I'll consider it. And you get the impression he's serious about it, but it's definitely like a, You drive along. Anything else while you're traveling?
Yeah, so I think the skull probably still has like the really good amasec. So like,
Sure.
so like Venari's like sitting in the chair like this, and he just kind of like puts his hand up, and the skull kind of like comes over and like puts the bottle in his hand, and he's like, "Do you have any glasses? This is, whatever, like vintage and reserve, so he knows like this is the top shelf stuff."
Yeah. He grins. Well, of course I do. And like nods to one of the guards, and they like open a compartment, and there's like, like really nice, like
Crystal.
scotch. Yeah, like crystal scotch, like for the good shit style glasses. He's like, if you're offering, I certainly wouldn't turn down a nightcap at this time of evening.
And indeed I am. And he just like, he puts the bottle down like on the, the center console thing for him to pour and then to keep, probably.
I mean, he'll give glasses. So he gives a glass to you, Emmaus himself.
I assume that's it.
That's it. Yeah, that would be it. And he pours, not crazy, but a generous pour for the three of you, and raises a glass and says, to a fine drink.
And Venari like tinks his glass and he says, "To new beginnings."
Do you have carouse?
I do. Unless you want charm instead.
You can use whichever one you want. I'll say charm or carouse would be. Carouse is like, you're not really like getting like hammered, but like either one I think is, depends on what you want the reaction to be. Carouse would be like the get tipsy while on the trip. Charm would be have a few classy drinks.
Yeah, he's sipping, right? So he doesn't want to be.
It's up to you. It's whatever you want. Then it's charm if you're doing the if you're doing like a let's have a glass of scotch on the way, and
he's being schmarmy. It's more of a charm thing. Like he plans on leaving the bottle, and like he's trying to like mend fences kind of thing.
Okay. So Mason's just going to slug his back like a shot. So.
God damn it. That's the good stuff. All right. So this is going to be 65.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Oh, fucking 75.
That's not good.
He's still like, it's not like your BFFs, but he appreciates it.
Yeah.
He definitely. Well, you said you're leaving the bottle.
Yeah, so like he puts his hand out, the skull puts the bottle in his hand. You know, he kind of like offers it, shows the label. He opens up the drawer and he just kind of like sets it like on the center console, like at a mini bar and a thing, you know, for him to like to give him the honor to pour, and then he would just leave it then for him.
Okay. Seems like it's pretty clear that it's his now. I'll give you a +10 for that. I'll count that as a success.
75. That's a success.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I think donating a bottle of fucking ludicrously expensive liquor, you know, at least it's enough for him to be. He seems to be much more cordial for the rest of the ride as you're sipping the Amasec. He's kind of, you know, pointing out things, you know, as you're going by, and asking you kind of more about, you know, your ship, that sort of stuff. Just kind of chit chat. But he definitely seems less stoic.
So he would take this.
Gift.
Yeah, he would take this opportunity at this point to kind of talk up Lavina and say, you know, that she was a great help and she was, you know, quite attentive. Yeah, that you know, it was not her mismanagement of the situation, but the, you know, the misunderstanding of the crew, you know, whatever. So she doesn't get in trouble.
Okay. Yeah, he's like, oh, of course. I have no doubt in her abilities. She's a professional all the way. I certainly don't think this reflects poorly on her. No worries on any negative outcomes for her.
Excellent. I appreciate the consideration.
Okay, so you show up at the fields. Everyone gets out. The guards are, you know, they're kind of just like behind and beside, as Roderick kind of says, well, Navigator, show us the way, as kind of a ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
Check out my turn of phrase. And then he kind of gives Venari like a, I got him.
He's just like, he nods at him like, yeah.
And then he like does like a cheers with the rest and just like slugs back the very little left and then hands one to the guard and he takes the glasses back and it's like, proceed.
Kynnoch right now is doing everything he can just to not rip his hood off and melt this guy's face. But I won't for now. And he'll just kind of give a curt nod of the head and walk towards the grain station that they were previously at that had the tainted wheat.
Okay. You show up there. Everything's I mean, nothing's around at the moment. Like, no one's around. It's nighttime. Nothing's happening. So, this is it. This is what we should inspect.
And so, yeah, I'll find probably like the previously strongest pile.
Sure.
And kind of gesture toward it. And okay. Still say silent. I'm afraid of what's going to come out of my mouth.
Okay.
So he'll still just kind of nod and give a hand gesture, almost like flipping it off, kind of just like, this is it.
Okay. Give me a sign essence.
Sure. That is a 25 out of 58.
Okay. You detect the warp signature for sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, you also detect a strong interference. And by interference, it's as if you can still detect the warp sort of energy, but it's dampened significantly.
So it's like somebody is of lesser skill is attempting to block its potency.
If something is blocking the potency,
Yeah,
if it could be a fit, yeah. So
it could be an object or a person.
Correct.
Okay.
And you see, his two cloaked psychers kind of go up. You see them like doing little motions and stuff, putting on a little bit of a show. Come back, and they have like a little huddle. They're whispering. You hear like a sort of like a scree type communicator device thing. One of the guards, guard that you.
Sorry, just kind of say real quick. The whole time, Kynnoch will have that like, just he's upset at the lack of ability that is going on right now, and it's just more so that depressed, like, this is what I have to deal with. This is the level that I have to deal with right now.
So he has a conversation with the two cloaked men.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scree type alert from one of the guards. The guard that you detected psyker warp presence from. He walks over and starts talking to Roderick. Roderick kind of looks serious, nods. Thinks about it. He's like, gentlemen, would you accompany me to the transport? All of you, essentially.
Is his litany coming with us?
No. It doesn't look. No one has moved, and it doesn't look like it. Like he's like, would you accompany me? And he's like, everyone stayed attention.
So Venari kind of like steps in and he says, "Is there a problem?"
Do you all go, I guess, willingly into the transport?
I don't think. Are we going back to the vehicles, or is he like ushering us to the launch pad? Like, get the fuck off.
No. Like into the transport.
Yeah, I mean, Venari would step in and ask if there was a problem. I mean, I guess then.
I'm just waiting to make sure everyone goes, or if anyone's putting up like a fuck that, or if everyone goes, that's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't think Emmaus would see anything. It's not like they pulled out their weapons and are pointing them at us, right? They're just saying, "Can you get to the transport?"
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, it was him personally asking. Yeah. It wasn't like he has a discussion and he asks if you guys would go to the transport.
Yeah. Then I'll go. Yeah, I'll follow Venari over to the transport.
There's no other no one else. And he's like, guys, stay at attention. So theoretically, they're staying there. Yeah. I just want to know who's doing what and how they're reacting his request.
I think Kynnoch will make a comment of he'll gesture to the cloaked figure that has no ability, and then also gesture to the guard who does,
Okay.
And he will say to the guard, he's like, "You, it's time that you drop that costume." It's like, and just kind of then kind of turn with the cloak, start to walk.
Frowned a little bit, and Roderick gives a little bit of a like smirk, and is like, "After you, sir."
Turns with the cloak, and it kind of gives that light flare, and then we'll continue on.
Yeah, Jarnan's just going to kind of look at Roderick and be like, now you understand why we did what we had to do. And then just walks over to the transport.
Okay. You go to the transport. He closes the door. Venari asks, is there a problem? Roderick sits and then crosses a leg and says, I don't know. It's quite intriguing. I know the warp is a fickle thing, but your man says that the tide is tainted. So does one of mine. The other could not detect anything. I'm not sure who to believe. I'd like to believe with enough conviction to have done what you've done that he did legitimately detect some sort of warp presence or warp corruption upon our stocks. My man can confirm that. One of them, the other not so. But who knows? Perhaps he just can't detect it.
Can Kynnoch cut in real quick? And
Sure.
He'll say, pardon, but are you discussing about the gentleman who is putting on the charade, or the one who you dressed up as a guard to keep track on us? Sorry, I'm just trying to keep the story going.
Of course. I'll put my cards on the table. Yes, one of the cloaked men, I assume you know which, is indeed a true psyker. Quite talented at that. I use him when we have particularly sensitive missions or requests to be made. The other is a decoy, of course. And the guard is indeed a psyker as well. And perhaps not as powerful, but loyal. And generally, I trust him to speak the truth. So, you're right. I can drop the ruse. My cloaked associate did detect, albeit moderate, mild signal from the grain stocks. The other detected nothing. But that's enough to concern me, based on your story.
I will tell you that you say that the other man is reliable and faithful.
Indeed.
I, as well, did sense yet again the taint of the warp upon the grains. However, this time, there was something or someone attempting to disturb that connection.
What do you mean?
It had indeed been weakened since the last time that we had been there. It has not been that much of a time that has passed.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense for it to have weakened that much if you've detected it earlier in your visit.
And we also have not told anybody but you about this occurrence. So the chances that somebody has brought in some sort of technology that could dampen or inhibit our skills is slight.
Are you accusing me, sir?
No, of course not.
I would, of course, never try to obscure corruption under my watch. This is my land to protect. I serve these people.
Of course, of course. As I said, I am not blaming you. I feel that you have just as much to lose if this is indeed a corrupted crop.
If not more. I could be relieved of my post and supplanted with another governor, someone who could better take care of the Empire's need for foodstuffs and stocks now that the warp cloud has cleared. I must ask, can you detect any source, any location of this disturbance? You said that you felt some weakening, some additional pull of the warp receding into the west. Could that have been some part of this dampening in the effect? Could that have been what was causing your senses to detect warp corruption?
It is possible. Perhaps the more closer relation had amplified the signal. I would suggest before to possibly we eliminate any other outcomes. You said that your psyker, the one that had been making his presence known, he is the one that sensed the taint, correct?
Indeed.
I suggest perhaps a partnership. Maybe him and I could discuss things, and we could perhaps together focus our abilities and just eliminate any possible tampering within the area before we move out upon the outskirts.
I don't see why not. I'm open to that.
Brilliant.
He opens the door, says, well, then back we go to investigate.
And Kynnoch will put the hand up to him first and be like, oh, of course, Captain, I'm sorry if this is okay with you.
Indeed, proceed. And try not to fuck it up. 10%.
Yeah, he leads you out and walks over. He introduces you to the psyker in the cloak. And I'm just gonna make that note. His name is Strellis Candesian.
I think you're going to have to put that in the chat.
Yeah. And so, hold on, let me edit.
Yeah, don't worry. I have to edit anyway, so take your time.
There you go. So, Roderick walks over and says, Navigator Kynnoch, let me introduce to you Astralis Candesian, psyker of the House of Honigsburg. He has detected the warp signature, just as you have. Perhaps it would make sense for the two of you to work together, and kind of gives Astralis a nod. And Astralis, kind of like pulls his cloak back. He has several mutations. He definitely has the like wrinkled, like rhino hide looking skin that occasionally will occur. He also has like a very elongated face That's not. I mean, it's still human, clearly, but definitely somewhat odd. Like it's definitely like longer than normal. He says, pleasure, Navigator. I, of course, am happy to collaborate with you.
Can I do a quick Navis Nobilite on his house?
He is not a navigator.
Oh, no. All right.
He's a psyker, but not a navigator. He does not have a third eye.
Oh, okay.
He is a pure psyker.
Gotcha.
Okay. You don't know. He could theoretically be an astropath still. But you don't know. You do know he is a rather powerful psyker.
Okay.
Definitely has fewer constraints than a navigator would as far as raw power.
Gotcha. All right. That makes sense then.
Yeah, he's originally like a psyker.
Okay, yeah. I originally thought when I spoke Navigator to him that it was just because he was like born on this planet and didn't really get it. But now that I'm up close to him, I'm like, oh,
no, he has no idea. He had
like,
no fucking clue what you were saying.
Yeah.
He does not know Navigator like speak. He's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm a goddamn psyker. I'm just some dude with psychic powers. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Yeah, he has no house, does not have a third eye. Yeah.
Right on. All right, yeah. So I'll give him a true bow and be like, Kynnoch of House Granicus. It is a pleasure to meet somebody of such pure power as yourself.
Please don't think of me that way. It's an honor to meet a navigator. I wished that I would have been recruited myself. Fortunately, I am not, but I get to serve in my own way.
So he'll just give kind of the bow and restrain himself for now around normies.
Sure.
And so say, shall we? I'm not sure if you have been abreast of the situation, but we are. I wish to, if you would lend me your assistance in searching about the area, and I feel as though there is something dampening the connection to the immaterium that I believe with your assistance we might be able to suss out.
Of course. Let me help however you see fit. And he's kind of like looking, he's still kind of like touching over the grain. He's like, I could not tell if it was just weak or if something was interfering. It's not uncommon.
So I can assure you that there is foul play about in some level.
Well then, proceed. Lead the way. I will help in whatever way I can.
Who is in the greenhouse, in the storehouse with us right now?
Right now it's Roderick, your companions, the cloaked guy without powers, Strellis, the guard with powers, and 5 other guards.
Okay. All right. So he'll kind of turn back to the rest of the group and be like, I would suggest that you cover up.
Yeah, Jarnan covers his eyes. Like immediately.
Yeah, Venari just like turns around and he's like, you don't want to. And he just kind of like waves his hand, like, just turn around.
Like the rest of the guys are kind of like, huh? And then they're like, I don't know. And they kind of turn around like, I don't know what the fuck's happening, but these guys You seem definitely worried about it. So I guess I'll do whatever. And Roderick's like, yeah, turn around, or like close your or like shield yourself.
I just don't want to scare the shit out of him. That's all.
I mean, Royal Guard's probably used to it, but if you like do like the third eye, like crazy town stuff, they might freak.
I'm at least original at first glance, not planning on doing that, but
okay.
But yeah. All right, so I'll remove the wrapping and the hood and take all that down to better connect, to open the third eye and connect with the Imperium.
Okay. Are you trying to detect?
Yeah. So at this point, I think I will be doing another whatchamacallit? Senescence.
You get a plus 10 from Venari.
Yep.
And let me see what you get from. You'll get a plus 10. Unfortunately, the roll was not great from the addition of the other psyker.
All right. All right. Let's see where we can go with this. That is okay. So we have a 34 out of a 78.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's
and
4 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. This time you're specifically honing in on this dampening effect. So
right. Yeah. At this point, I'm not trying to feel like the energies of the warp. I'm actually trying to figure out what's detaching me from them.
Yeah. So as you're kind of like trying to hone in on this, you get there is one spot that seems less warp energy dense than
colder
the others. Almost to the point of being like warp dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like empty of all connection to the immaterium, which is unnatural for anything. Even like, dirt has some connection to the immaterium, right? Like everything is in some way connected. Mm-hmm. So having a black spot is particularly weird.
Yeah.
If you approach that area, you notice that there's a particular crate of the tithing that you notice a literal sort of inky black dot spray almost. Mm-hmm. That if you look closely around it, you can see like it's kind of speckled over a lot of the area, but this looked like maybe it was constant, like there was just like an extra splash or burst of whatever this liquid is.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it was a liquid that had sprayed, and in this particularly dense spot of it, it is warp negative. Nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing.
Right.
No warp signature whatsoever of anything, good or bad, or tainted or just regular type. It's like it's blocking your power.
All right.
In particular, and Astralis kind of goes up and is like almost going to touch it, and it's just like fat, like he feels it too.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'll at that point put my cloak back. I'll put the hood back up, and I'll kind of put my hand on his shoulder and say, "Thank you, brother," and give a to the rest of the group.
Roderick will turn around.
Yeah, Venari turns around.
You start walking that way.
Did you find anything, Kynnoch?
Yes, indeed, sir. We actually found that with the help of Australis, that this area is devoid of the warp. This and he'll draw everybody's attention to this liquid that is covering the crate and in a couple of little spots too. Is this substance appears to be able to absorb the signal of the warp.
Now, can we see it in like real space, or is that something they only see in like?
No, there's a black splotches of an ink, like a black ink almost, that was kind of like aerosol sprayed in a denser fashion on that particular crate. Yeah. And Australis is kind of still like investigating, and he kind of touches it and like shakes his head a bit, and it's like,
that was dumb.
He's just kind of like, ugh. And then it's like, interesting.
I feel perhaps that somebody may be attempting to hide what is within this crate. I think maybe we might want to investigate this before moving on.
Is it safe to touch? Roderick, did your men bring any scanners with them? Is there a chance that we can perhaps detect this with some other instrumentation?
Of course, we have auspex in the vehicles. I can have the men grab them.
Indeed, let's start with that before anyone decides to jostle that crate around.
He goes. The guards run. They kind of jog briskly, come back with 2 auspex scanners. He's like, I'm not technical with these sorts of things. Of course, I've had no training by the Mechanicus, so I assume you'll know how to operate these. At least one of you. Unless you need an expert, I can summon one, but I have not prepared an engineer with us on this particular venture.
I have a multi-key, but I don't know that really helps in this scenario, would it? It's a plus 10% to tech use, but
not multi-key. No, that would be tech use for like security type stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have tech use trained, that's something.
I have tech use basic, so I'd be rolling on a 20.
Well,
better than the rest. Better than nothing.
That's trained at least at basic.
Well, I assume it's like, you know, a Star Trek scanner kind of thing. Like you just hit the button and it does its thing and spits out the numbers, right? Like
but it's still a tech use to use the scanner.
Yeah.
I mean, the scanner will give you a bonus. But
Sure.
if you're rolling at like an 8 because your intelligence is like 16, then you're not rolling very well either way. If the best you got's a 20, then you'd be rolling at like, I'll give you like a plus 20.
Dude, I'm just going to stop you there. I literally just rolled a 1. First roll of the fucking night. Rolled a 1 on the fucking stupid scanner.
Wow.
Seriously.
Of all things, you've used this model before a lot. As a kid, you had one to play with, scanned a bunch of shit growing up just for fun. You know, backwards and forwards. So you are scanning the material in the area. Inside the crate, you only detect grain. This particular scanner is not. There are scanners that allow you to scan for warp energies. This is not one of them. That would be super specialized. They do exist. But so inside the crate, you find you can't detect anything other than just grain and the crates themselves. The material on the crate definitely is... It's of Xenos. Well, it doesn't know that it's of Xenos origin. It's of an unknown material, organic material of some sort, potentially Xenos, in that it's not identifiable in the Auspex database as a known molecular substance. So yeah, there's no known correlate to this particular substance in the database. You seem Xenos. You would read Xenos for the most part in that.
To be fair, I think Jarnan would read Xenos in almost anything that he didn't understand,
yeah,
right?
Probably. Burn it.
You know, that's pretty safe bet. Like, it's not us. I'll probably just say it. I'll be like, yeah, no, it's scanned it, and it's not us, so it's Xenos.
So I have...
It's not us, so it's Xenos.
So I have Forbidden Lore Xenos. Can I roll that, or is that a stretch?
Sure. I'm going to give it at a negative 20 because this would be ludicrously obscure.
1.
21 out of 20.
Wow.
Wait, is that when you rolled a 1 plus the 20, or did you roll a 21?
No, I rolled a 21.
Okay.
Wow. Now I feel bad for the 20 penalty, but I'll give you something. That's pretty close.
Yeah, there we go.
Like, I don't want to give you nothing for that. Based on the fact, I don't want to make that connection per se. I'm going to say meta information. Roderick does have a Xenos. He does have an Eldar pattern looking plasma pistol.
And we've all seen that, right? It wasn't.
And you've all seen that. You recognize that, but the weird part is you kind of make a leap. I would say this is not a known connection, but the Eldar do have rumored cloaking devices. And in some cases, there are rumors that they can cloak themselves even from the warp. That's a total rumor, though.
Yeah.
That there are, I would say, like a sect of Eldar agents who are invisible to the warp, although that exists in humanity as well. There are untouchables that are warp null people. So there are warp null Eldar as well.
So could I frame it as would I frame it as, so Jarnan has said this is definitely Xenos, and would a good way to frame it just me saying, obviously not looking at Roderick's, side piece but just to say, yes, this seems to be some kind of Eldar dampening, or would that be too much of a, just saying, just straight up like that?
It would be, you've heard of.
Yeah.
The potential.
So there are rumors
like could have a way to shield themselves or shield their warp signature.
Okay. So just saying putting it out as a rumor, not this is, but so
and
I'll say.
You would also probably think, I guess maybe more if, let's say, right, that Roderick just inherited this pistol from his family and someone at some point had found it somewhere, right? There could have been other Eldar stuff on this planet at some point. So it could have been derived from that. It could be maybe the Eldar are fucking operating here. You don't know. Like, but it's not like you wouldn't make necessarily the connection like, he has that pistol, therefore he definitely is doing something. It's more of that's one Xenos race that you do know had some ability to do that, whether it be technological,
organic,
or otherwise. Organic, maybe it's just untouchables, like human untouchables. But the human folk, people tend to think they're not all untouchables. That's from some of the lore you've read.
Okay, so the way I'll frame it is, with Jarnan saying it definitely looks to be Xenos, I'll say that, there are rumors of, Eldar, a certain sect of Eldar who can dampen the warp by some means. So just like you said, I don't want to give it too much away. Just keep it very vague like that. Just say, there are rumors that this is possible and the Eldar can do this.
Roderick is like, you believe there is a Xenos incursion on our planet? We've had no reports of such, and certainly no attacks. I've heard they're quite ruthless.
Venari turns to Kynnoch and says, do the Eldar have a particular warp signature? Are they tainted by the warp in any way? Would that explain possibly what you felt to the west?
Being I mean,
do you have like Forbidden Lore Xenos?
No, I have Forbidden Lore Warp.
I would say, not necessarily.
No, I mean, I know that there's like ships can give off specific warp signals, and I can so I'm assuming that like various, like obviously an Eldar ship would kind of leave a different trace than an Imperial ship, but I don't think that like people or technology necessarily would, right?
Yes, you don't. They don't give off warp corruption vibes.
Yeah.
They give off a different vibe than humans.
Yeah.
But they don't. What you felt was more akin to warp entity / demon-ish energy than Xenos, just different, alive, normal in this world energy.
Right. Yeah.
Like life force versus warp energy.
Yeah. This is organic as well. So this is
an organic substance that is warp null.
Yeah. So I will, ponder it for a moment and say, well, Captain, the warp is the warp. There's, it does not care for whether or not you are of man or of alien. So to say that it favors or alters from one to the next is not entirely true. I will gather as well that with Emmaus, your skill and your knowledge is adequate. This feels much more of an organic, a creature of the warp rather than something that was manufactured. This contains a certain purity about it.
I will, of course, defer to your judgment in such matters. He looks over to Roderick. He steps closer to Roderick and kind of like doesn't pull him to the side, but kind of like steps over so that they're kind of away from everybody.
Sure.
More specifically from his guards than from the crew.
Yeah.
And says, do you have the proof that you require to maybe not forgive the actions that were taken, but at least understand that there are things that are occurring here that were outside of our control?
It certainly seems something is amiss. I'll give you that. I can't entirely blame your crew if something of this scale is occurring, especially without my knowledge. It's quite concerning. I think perhaps we need to investigate this further. I'd ask, of course, if willing, you would help us determine what's going on here, since your men seem to be attuned to such abnormalities, whereas, of course, we've never dealt with something like this. If it's been happening under our mind nose the entire time, then perhaps we don't have the ability or perhaps fidelity of powers to determine what's happening. I'd like to secure our place as much as possible. And if this is all tainted, certainly the God Emperor's children cannot be fed such rations. We would lose a great amount of the tithe. And although concerning, I'd certainly rather rebuild than sacrifice any to the machinations of the warp.
Indeed, you've been nothing but fair with us, and if I were in your position, I can't say that I would have been as just as you have proven yourself to be. We will indeed help you as much as we can to find out exactly what's going on here, as was our mission originally before the unpleasantness that occurred so recently. Do you have a loyal cadre of men? Can you begin to perhaps assess and see if you have anyone in your employ that may be less than loyal?
I do, of course. I have agents who can suss out anyone who is a threat to the throne, my rule, or the Imperium. Of course, I never thought it would come from the Harvest Mother or any of her ilk. They seemed quite dedicated and loyal, and of course, generated all of this tithe. Again, if it's tainted and that was their goal, then something even more concerning is occurring here. I don't like it. Don't like this at all. And we must get to the bottom of it. So I have tried to be fair. I will do what I can to help the investigation, but I feel we must get to the bottom of this sooner than later. You certainly can't take the tithe now, unless, of course, you've determined any of it to be safe. But it seems to start, we must quarantine all these goods, and I will travel back to the palace and start rounding up the most loyal and skilled of my men to start an inquiry with the citizens and with the church.
If I may suggest, if you could do it as quietly as possible, and as opposed to quarantining, as we are the only ones that would seem to know exactly the extent of what's happening, perhaps we just leave things as they are for now, so as not to flush anyone prematurely. Perhaps you could quietly round up the members of the Harvest cult and use whatever means you may find necessary to extract the information that you require.
Of course, it's easy enough for us to perform an investigation of doing our due diligence for the vile and heinous murder of the Harvest Mother. That would mean our agents would, of course, need to question all of those in the temple. That would make sense. They typically don't leave, and they work the fields close by. So I'll certainly send some men to gather as much information as we can from there. You're right. We don't need to officially quarantine any of these goods as long as you don't leave for the moment. Not saying that you're required to stay, but of course you leaving without the tithe would seem suspect, as of course most of the citizenship and of course the administratum had taken your arrival as essentially that you would be finally taking the tithe to the Imperium. So if you are still here, then of course it wouldn't look suspect that none of the grain has been moved. Perhaps you're just enjoying a respite from your hardships on our pleasant planet for the moment. And we take a few days to investigate.
Indeed, that sounds like a wonderful idea. You have my word, we will not depart prematurely. And he kind of throws an arm over his shoulder and he's like, there is perhaps an arrangement we could come to with the grain, such as it is. Let's talk. And he starts to walk away with him.
Okay. He looks very confused at that suggestion.
Right. So, like, as he gets away from the crew now, Jarnan specifically, he's like, the further you get out into the warp, and of course, all, glory and honor to the God Emperor, may he live forever.
Of course.
Things tend to get flexible, shall we say.
Of course, with a writ of trade, you can be more flexible than most. Perhaps not as flexible as the governor of a planet, who does have some flexibility. Perhaps not as much as you.
Of course. And his eyes kind of turns his head and he looks at his pistol and he goes, I have had dealings in the past, you could say, with agents that would not be welcome in the, home systems. Perhaps we could trade this grain to someone who doesn't really matter if they are tainted by the warp.
Interesting. Who might you trade this to in that case? Or should I not ask that question?
I'm sure that there are hungry people, he uses air quotes, to be found in the farther reaches of space. There's no reason that we should consider this a complete loss. Although I would have to find just the right person. And then he starts to think and he kind of scratches his beard. He's like, this might fuck up my reputation with, the orcs are stupid, right? So he figures if he could dump the grain off on an orc ship and they all fucking turn, who gives a shit?
Yeah, they're not going to know any different. They're just, they're fucking dumb as fuck. So yes, depending on who it would be, yes. Depending on who it is, some of them may, yes, be wise enough to spread that word. Otherwise, other ones could certainly, orcs in particular would be fucking dumb. They wouldn't know shit. If you could negotiate, if you could find and negotiate a deal with them, sure.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. They're not unable to be dealt with. They're not easy to deal with because they're dumb berserkers, but it could be done.
Yeah, he's almost thinking out loud to Roderick to see like if they can both make some money on this deal. Like clearly they're not going to take it back to
Yeah.
the Imperial sectors, but like as opposed to just torching the building, he's kind of thinking out loud.
Well, I'd have to give it some thought. I'm not sure what really would be the implications of feeding this to perhaps less desirable people. I don't know what the effect would be. I'm not familiar with these matters. We might consider it, though. Perhaps if you're able to deal with them, I have always heard it's nearly impossible to make those types of trades without some sort of violence ensuing at the end of the day. But if I got a cut of the profits, then I certainly couldn't argue with you taking the grain. It would indeed bolster our citizenship's resolve toward the Imperium as our tithe was served. If they find out that it was corrupted, of course, be terrible for morale as well as potentially cause a panic. I don't want that. So if you could unload this on some other people, then perhaps it would be a win for the both of us. That would be up to your skill, of course, in being able to broker such a deal. You're clearly capable, and you clearly have the right. It's just whether you're lucky enough to make that happen, I feel. It will require some amount of luck as for dealing with unsavory people can be difficult.
That's for sure. Well, let's table this for now. I think we can reach some arrangement. I feel you are more than capable in your position. I feel like we can come to some sort of an agreement.
I'll think on it. I'm certainly open. In the meantime, I'm going to take my leave. Of course, I need my rest in order to properly govern and maintain such regal appearances to my subjects.
Of course, of course.
I will leave you to it. You, of course, have rooms at the palace as you deem fit. You're free as guests, of course, and you may use our facilities as you see fit. Your doors will not be locked. Of course, there are off-limits areas in the palace, of course, with all government buildings. But you'll have any of the public spaces, feel free to use. And I'll leave it to you and your men to do some additional investigations as I rally my best information gatherers.
Your Majesty, would we be able to get in contact with our ship? It's been a bit of time, and if you would like us to do some more investigations, it may help to have some of the tools on the Heretics Bane to do that.
Certainly, you may use either the palace's communication equipment. If you need to, if you require transport to your shuttle or the docks, the spaceport's services for communication, you can certainly request that as well. I'll make sure that they know to provide any resources, mundane resources that we can. Transport, obviously, any food or beverages you need. If you need anything other than your equipment, I'll have that returned to your, it is in the transport you'll be taking back. So your equipment is yours to hold on to. If you need anything else, please. Anything that might be of special request, let me know. I will do my best to acquire it.
You
Appreciate
were
it.
most gracious, yes.
Well, I try. In the meantime, I will graciously be partaking in another glass of your gift.
Please, I hope you enjoy it as much as I have.
I've already enjoyed it greatly, and I plan to enjoy it much, much more. Well, I'm off. Please keep me informed. I'll ask for a report from you, from one of my men. In the meantime, if we find anything, I'll let you know as soon as possible.
He gives him like a formal bow.
He does a bow as well, and then does a very, like tight, heel turn military style, and walks very, regally to his transport. It closes up, and two of the guards go with him, drive away.
Okay, and they had all of our gear in the guard transport.
And the other
then?
one, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Your folks didn't know about it, like Jarnan and Kynnoch didn't know, but there are lockers in the transports that your stuff is in those lockers, as needed. And the rooms you were in the palace, if you wish to stay there, are available and freely. Yeah, you're free to roam common spaces.
All right, so I guess as they walk over to the other transport, those guys open up the lockers and begrudgingly pass our weapons and stuff back to us. There's Venari's strapping his sword on, and people are putting their pistols in. And he's like, well, I guess we've averted the worst of it for now. You guys want to stay at the palace? How many times have you stayed at a palace? I can tell you it's not the first time I've had such a luxury. Might as well take it while we can get it.
Yes, I think I will stay at the palace.
Excellent.
I was thinking, sir, if I would head back up to the ship and see if I could get any more readings on the rest of the planet. I'm assuming we're not locked into the space we're at now, so maybe even drift a bit further west towards this area and see if I can spot anything. Question.
Well, before I answer, let me ask Neil then. So is it okay for us to take the shuttle off the planet? I mean, he doesn't want the ship to leave orbit.
Yeah, as long as
we don't all get on the shuttle.
Yeah. Yes. If all of you went up, it would they don't know, but then he'd have to start answering questions.
Yeah,
so he doesn't want to answer questions.
Right.
But it's a small the city is big here, the capital is big enough, but people would know that you're still there. And at least there's some log of who's coming and going. So if Emmaus goes up, there's the whole command crew isn't listed on leaving on the shuttle, right?
How about this? So Emma says that, and I say, yes, that is an excellent idea. Call for another shuttle to be brought down. We'll leave this other one here so it does not appear that we are all leaving after we have agreed to stay.
And I guess maybe if you would just let His Majesty know that I will be heading up just to do some other investigations while the three, I don't know what Kynnoch's going to do, partake in his hospitalities then.
Of course.
And I promise I won't get us into trouble or overstep our bounds.
And he raises an eyebrow.
I mean, they wouldn't care if you're orbiting the planet in a different asynchronous orbit or moving around, but if you leave orbit, then they might be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I just fucking told you guys. But if you're in orbit, regardless of where you are. It's
What I'm assuming, if the Navigator and the Rogue Trader are on the ground, then
if the Rogue Trader's on the ground, they kind of don't give a shit about anyone else because they're not going to leave their captain.
Right.
They're not going to leave the guy with the one ability to be like, I'm not allowed to be arrested.
Yeah.
And I also say these guys too because me. Like,
well, and the guards are right there, right? So like we're having this conversation. So they're like, oh, okay, he's gonna leave fucking whatever. Like,
if he says like I'm gonna go up and do some scans, then they're gonna be like, yeah. Like it won't alarm anybody.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So that'll be my plan, Captain. I will head up and see if we can get any more information from the areas that Kynnoch pointed out to the west.
Excellent idea. Kynnoch, will you be joining him, or are you going to stay and partake of the hospitality of the palace?
With all due respect, sir, I believe that I will be heading up with Emmaus so that I might be able to better direct him in the repositioning.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, I feel that I need a respite from this place. It's not comfortable. I
would imagine the warp taint that you can feel must rest heavy on your soul.
Oh no! It's more so the gravity. It's not good.
Indeed. And he kind of like winks at you, like he turns his back to the guards, kind of like winks at you, like, yeah, okay. So then I guess we will. So he, says to one of the guards, he's like, if you could drop us off or drop, my men over at the spaceport, we will have another shuttle brought down so they can, further this investigation. While Jarnan and I will remain here as your guests at the palace. Assuming they agree, and then we head off that way. And we'll drop you guys over there.
So, out of character, this place hasn't been visited for hundreds of years. What do you do with psychers if you can't ship them off to go work for the Imperium?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go to the palace. I'm going to stop fucking snooping my ass around. Not to put too fine a point on it, but yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to stay in the palace.
Well, I think, I'm not completely versed in the lore, but right, I think the black ships come and collect the psychers as they, become apparent. So, I guess if he's got house psychers, so like if someone pops up on the planet, and they're like, oh shit, that guy's fucked up. They collect them and then use them as anyone else in the Imperium would.
Or just feed them to the Emperor.
Yeah.
But that's what the black ship would come and pick them up to go feed them. But if they haven't been sending them off, then how many are there?
I don't know what percentage of people would be born with some kind of psychic ability.
Yeah,
they would all be unsanctioned, right?
I figure like a known missionary just walking around the palace, like asking questions, is going to make people nervous. And I figure nervous psychers tend to move shit with their mind by accident.
I guess that's one theory.
Get them nervous, hope they fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I figure like literally part of my backstory is that like I tracked these people down. So
yeah,
figure he probably knows a couple of tricks. But yeah, all right, stop talking about it quick. He's back.
So Venari requested that the guys drop Emmaus and Kynnoch off at the spaceport, and they were going to wait for another shuttle to come down. They could use our shuttle to call for another shuttle, and to put that in their report that that Jarnan and I would be staying at the palace, and on the ride over. So I had to wait for you to come back. On the ride over, Venari would jump on the comm and call Lavinia and just like, you like call, wait for her to answer and be like, so have you ever stayed at the palace?
No.
How would you like to?
You're joking.
The king usually sends me home before I can sleep there.
Yeah. We are dropping two of our crewmen off, clan crew off at the spaceport. We could pick you up there, and you could come back with us.
I mean, as long as it's not, it might be a little inappropriate.
That makes it all the much more fun.
Well, I suppose if you're insisting I join you for official business purposes, of course.
Of course.
Then I guess it's my job as member of the Administratum to help coordinate whatever business dealings that you have to arrange with the spaceport. So I guess if you need me to work late, I guess I have to.
I will be working quite late.
I hope we work really hard.
Indeed we will.
Fast. What? You can edit that.
He's just going to higher your voice slightly so that you actually sound like a chick.
Yeah. I still haven't installed that program. I do have a thing. I feel like it's going to sound weird. But I've downloaded a couple things to try.
Yeah, so that's the only other thing that he wanted to accomplish.
Okay.
For the night, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the two get their shuttle. They'll get left at the spaceport while it's, descending and landing. You pick up Lavinia. You are taken to the palace. The guards are quite cordial. They let you essentially. The one does a servant, not a guard, does ask, oh, would you like help, to your rooms, with, whatever equipment or luggage or whatever you might have, and then offers to show you your room, and then in the meantime asks, if you'd like anything in your room for the evening, refreshments or anything, they're happy to provide.
Yeah, definitely wine and, whatever.
I'm sure they have, chocolate-covered strawberries or
yeah, the whole
some
deal.
sort of fancy platter of cheese and fruit.
Mm-hmm. Anything for Jarnan?
Yeah, now Jarnan will just take the basics, necessities.
Corpse rations.
Yeah. Straw and oats.
As long as it's not grain, yeah.
Yeah, even yes, your room would be essentially then all you have is, you have a bathroom and all that, but they do have a really nice purified water jug stuff. So you do have that sort of amenities. They bring a very nice wine to Venari's room, and a platter of sort of just a dessert cheese and fruit platter type thing of all locally grown stuffs that are quite delicious looking. Anything before, and then obviously if the crew makes it back up, everyone's aware of what's happening and the plan. Don't freak out. The captain's not here. He's staying down there, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure who to go to. Emmaus, are you doing scans right away, or are you gonna like sleep and then do it like in the morning, whatever space morning is?
Well, I was going to say, I was going to just, if Kynnoch and I are going back up, I'll just ask him. I'm just going to say, my thoughts were to try to scan west to the area you pointed out previously. Is there anything specifically that you can do that's not ship related? Is there any kind of sensing that you would want to do? Do you need to be closer, or I'm just trying to think if there's anything specifically you want to do outside of going to the control room and turning a bunch of knobs and buttons?
Well, that's not really my style anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Knobs and buttons. So I have a quick question. I have a navigator ability, Void Watcher.
Okay.
So it says that it can reveal hidden dangers, such as mines, void creatures, and concealed ships, as well as more mundane perils. And then it says, with skill and practice, the navigator's void sense can become amazingly precise and reach out across millions of kilometers of space.
Okay.
And I can use it to make a perception test to detect objects in space up to a distance.
Okay.
Would it be possible to use that to because it talks about like void units. So I'm assuming this is like a vast area. Could I possibly use this while on the ship to pinpoint an area on the planet?
I mean, I want to say yes, because logically yes, as long as it doesn't, but it won't translate into like, I don't want to get into like a scrying.
Oh no.
Situation.
No, I'm
like,
not trying to I'm not trying to suss out like the exact origin and like what specifically is doing it, so I can like turn my third eye and be like, yep, I see a guy right down there. That's him.
Yeah. Like if you're on a fucking orbiting a hive world, you're not gonna be like, we need to find this guy, and you like find him in like level 30,000 of life in that room. But yes.
No, yeah, I'm just more so trying to
sense,
like a general area, just so we know, because right now all we know is like the West.
Yes.
And so I'm just trying
to certainly do a wide, because like in that case it's like, yes, like a ship is like several kilometers. So if you're pinpointing an area of interest that you know of, I'd let you do that.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying. I mean, because it mentions like concealed ships and asteroids and void creatures and stuff like. So I'm assuming it's not like we're talking about like an area of like several blocks or like stuff like that. I'm not I'm not saying like he's at like coordinates right there.
Yeah. You could use it for that, especially to detect a warp signature in some more defined region from orbit. Sure, yeah, you can do that.
All right, sounds good. All right, so it is a perception test modified by range inside of potential objects as the GM thinks appropriate. So the distance equals, outside of combat, the distance equals 1,000 kilometers times the navigator's perception bonus, so we're looking at 5,000 kilometers.
Well, that's definitely within that.
No.
You're not orbiting farther than 5,000 kilometers from orbit. Like, it's less than that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the general orbit of a planet is to be in orbit. Like, it's usually, what is it? The moon's 250,000 miles from the Earth. Is that right? Like,
sounds about right.
How far up is the space station?
238,900 miles.
So the ISS orbits at 400 kilometers above.
Okay, so let's say, you'd be at 400 to 500 Did you say miles or kilometers?
Kilometers.
Then you're like 400 to 500 kilometers is all you would need. That's what you would be to be in orbit, whatever the shuttle or the space station is. That's what you would be orbiting at. So.
All right. Yeah, so we're well within that distance then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah. The size is like, I don't know if does it give an example of like what a base size is? Like a ship is fucking giant. Like it's not a kilometers wide area that you're looking for sure. Mm-hmm. It would be like, it'd be smaller than that. But let's say a 1 kilometer unit. Okay, well, let's just say roll it and at straight up. Mm-hmm. And depending, you'll get more or less information based on how well you roll.
There you go. Well, I got a 37 out of 58. So 2 degrees of success.
You can certainly feel a particular. So as you're kind of orbiting, you can see there's obviously sort of some rocky, sort of mountainous areas. There is a chain of mountains that kind of like it's kind of like a desert basin, right? And there's mountains kind of around it, and there's like sort of a line of kind of craggy, mountainous foothills that kind of slope down through the center a little bit. In the middle of that is where you feel a more dense warp presence.
Sounds good.
It does coincide with the directionality of the sort of pulling in of the retraction of that warp energy you felt.
All right. So yeah,
I would say at that point you could pinpoint it within a kilometer.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sounds good. All right. So I'll probably have done this like on the observation deck. So I'll come down to the bridge, to the bridge, go over to Emmaus, and kind of ask him to open up the map of the planet. I'll kind of scroll it around a little bit and then point and be like, "There, that is where we need to go."
Okay, so I'm assuming we don't want to go over now, right, Kynnoch? We want to just do some scouting and report back.
Yeah, I feel like we should probably wait for our dear captain. At the very least, we should make him aware of the situation.
So the area,
take care of that.
Yeah. So the area you're pointing out, you saying you can feel in the generalized area, but you're not getting any kind of information from that. If there's structures there or ships or
there's definitely no the I can sense that there is a pull, that there is a strong connection to the Imperium in that location. So the veil is definitely thinned there. I cannot tell exactly what is causing it from this distance, but there's definitely something there.
Okay, so can we get some scans of, I don't know if it's visual or just the readings of structures, beings, ships, anything like that in the area that Kynnoch pointed out?
Yeah, you definitely have ship scanners that can do that. You can actually add the ship's detection bonus to that too.
I think it's 15. I'm looking it up right now.
To your perception, to look for just general like features of the area. I'm debating. I'll give you another +10 because you know exactly where you're looking within a kilometer. That's a pretty small unit.
Okay.
So whatever ship detection is +10 to that plus your
perception. Okay.
For scrutiny in this case.
Okay.
I don't see it. I don't know why.
Damn it, John.
Well, I have turret rating 1, shields 1, armor 14, hull integrity 32, speed 10, maneuver. Detection 22.
There you go.
Damn. Plus 30.
Plus 32.
plus 32. So 72 is what I got. Well, that's what I got to roll to. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh.
You can be like 98.
70.
Wow.
Do you want to? Well, do you want to
Yeah, why
re-roll?
Yeah.
The end of the session, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
If you roll and miss it, it's gonna be
20.
So bad.
There you go.
20.
Wow.
You hear Venari in the back of your head like, do a better fucking job.
Do it again, stupid.
You stand above the crewman who's operating it and you go, enhance. Enhance. it just zooms in and gets like, somehow it's like 10 times the resolution. You really have good enhanced software. So it looks like there are some systems of natural caves in that area. However, there's also what looks to be a very unnatural cave that looks man-made in its structure, as in it's too circular. Like it's almost as it's a gradient down in a pathway that's fairly straight, almost too straight, and then like a circular room with it's almost like a dome, which is extremely unlikely. And then there's actually you can actually see it's open air at the top. There's a hole sort of in the top as well, which is wholly unnatural. Like that's nearly impossible for that to have been done naturally. So someone or something carved out that particular area, and I'll say that's probably all you would see from that.
Okay,
but that's pretty good.
Yeah, so I'll look at Kynnoch and say, in the area you pointed out, there is definitely some unnatural. Looks like something was made in a cave there. So we definitely have a focus of what we need to tell the rest of everyone else down below that we need to go check out. We need to let Roderick know that something's going on out there and it is not the natural landscape of the area.
Yes, very curious.
And I'm assuming it's getting late, right? So we don't want to go down and interrupt everyone's party, because I'm assuming Kynnoch and I are guessing if we didn't hear Venari call Lavinia, we're figuring that's what's going to happen. At least in my mind, that's what I figure was going to happen. So
yeah, it's definitely late at this point. Very, very late. If you can always wait, if you're waiting, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say I think Kynnoch and I probably both have to, I'll go talk to the rest of the crew and see what's going on, making sure everything's all right. And I'm assuming we'll settle down for the night then.
Yep, everything looks pretty normal so far. They don't notice anything weird. Since we're coming up on time, I'm gonna cut to so Venari, after doing whatever you do,
fucking demons.
It's dark. In your room, you hear a soft kind of throat clearing that wakes you up, and as you sort of your eyes kind of like get adjusted, you see a man sitting in a chair, one of the regular sort of lounge chairs, or study chairs, whatever, in your room. That looks, it's hard to tell in the dark at the moment. And he's looking directly at you. Says, "Well, it seems we need to talk, you stupid bastard. But I don't want to wake your girlfriend. So, should we talk here or step outside?"
The Venari squints to see, like, if he can get, like, he's trying to see if he can see who it is, like somebody
Give me
that
an
they run
awareness
into.
check. Or give me a scrutiny check.
Scrutiny? All right. I don't think I have that. I don't. So a half. So 20. No, even less than that. I got 37. So what is that? 15,
16.
Yeah.
All right. 75. The dude in the room.
It's a guy. That's it.
So like he rubs his eyes and shit. It's like, fuck. So he kind of like scooches. So he like pulls his arm out from underneath Lavinia and like, makes a show of like, hold on. And like it goes to like his pile of clothes and whatever. And like, puts on like pants at least.
Okay.
And like, I guess like he'll grab his shirt with like the plasma pistol under it.
Okay.
Like, so he has it like he's gonna get dressed, but he's just grabbed the shirt, so he's got the pistol.
Okay.
Surreptitiously.
Okay.
And he just, like quietly, he's like, after you.
You notice the guy stands up. He's pretty big. I mean, he's not particularly huge or anything. But he's certainly wearing some sort of large blade. Probably a pistol as well, some sort. And he walks close enough to you to you notice him grin, and he's like, "Don't play coy with me." And then, like, ushers you toward the door in front of him. And he's like, "I doubt you'll need the plasma pistol, but if it makes you feel better." He rolled a 1 on his screen. So he knows what you've done. And opens the door for you if you're not putting up a ton of resistance.
No, so he just shrugs then and puts his shirt on and holsters the pistol.
Yeah. Okay. He quietly opens the door and ushers you through if you walk through with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And he just, yeah. I'm trying to think if he could signal the skull in some way that the guy would know it, or if the thing would like automatically follow. I mean, again, like I don't think we have any sort of like.
It would probably auto follow, but in that case, when he sees it coming, he'll say, "Leave the skull."
Venari just shrugs, and he's like, stay home or whatever the command would be.
Yeah. Okay. Steps out, closes the door. Do you want to go any further, or do you want to cliffhang that?
I guess we could cliffhang that.
It's up to you. We can have the conversation as well.
How long is it gonna go?
I don't know. You guys tend to go longer than I think on some of these conversations, but like, it's an interesting conversation.
Fuck. I got a hard stop in like 15. That's the.
It'd probably take less than 15, but
I thought your hard stop was now.
That's what I thought. So
well, it takes me 10 minutes to go get her, right? So like I have a little bit of leeway.
You don't understand. You left it for the cliffhanger.
It's up to you. Whatever you want to do, you tell me.
Yeah, we can. I mean, if it's going to be short. So when we get into the hallway, then like he, like, pulls himself up to his full height and like, looks at the guy to see if it's somebody familiar.
You don't notice. He doesn't look. Well, he looks familiar, but you don't know him. He does look a hell of a lot like Roderick. Younger, scruffier, like stubble.
So
like,
his brother.
Messier hair. You could make the assumption there's a hell of a lot of family resemblance there.
Mhm.
But he's clearly the younger of the two, and that obviously means he's not the one in charge. You know, right? That's kind of how that works.
Right.
So he's definitely more like disheveled, like he's more cavalier looking.
Yeah. More rakish.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So then he kind of like gives him the hairy eyeball, and he's like, I assume that Roderick doesn't know that you're here.
Of course not. And I have to tell you, you're fucking everything up, traitor.
What? Indeed, I am a rogue trader. Good of
I
you to
know.
notice.
I'm aware. He's like, let's move somewhere more private. And he walks across the hallway to another room and kind of opens the door and is like, go in.
He pauses for a long moment and just stares at him, and then he just kind of like,
okay.
He just inclines his head and like slowly, like he strodes across the hall to the other room.
Okay. As you go in, shuts the door. He like motions for you to sit down at one of the chairs.
Yeah, he'll sit.
He sits as well across from you. There's a little table in between. Give me. Do you have what Forbidden Lore? Do you have a Forbidden Lore?
Xenos.
Give me a Forbidden Lore Xenos.
All right. All these fucking dice suck. So 73. Let me fucking reroll. I'm gonna spend a fate point.
Have you ever heard the phrase? Have you ever heard the saying that if everyone around you is an asshole, maybe it's not all your dice that suck, John?
Well, yeah, everybody knows I'm an asshole. Fucking 96. God damn it! I don't know anything.
It's not. Yeah, you don't.
You got Summer with the second roll.
Yeah, you don't have a particular. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. You know how you almost know something, but then when you try to really think about it, it goes
away.
Further away from you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like on the tip of my tongue. He's like tapping his temple, like I don't know, like fucking some. Yeah, whatever.
He sits down. He looks annoyed, but not like furious. And he's just like, well, your arrival has certainly thrown a wrench into my business. But you're a rogue trader. I'm a businessman. And I'm hoping that we can work out some sort of a deal.
Deals are what I work all the time.
I had hoped you would say that. I assume profit perhaps is more important than loyalty to various organizations.
You'd be surprised.
Let's just say my brother runs this place. It's fine. But I have some other dealings that are quite lucrative for me. And your arrival and raising of certain alarms has created complications for that business. So I'm here to offer you an opportunity to perhaps partner with me and make those complications go away.
So he kind of leans forward a little bit. It's interesting. What dealings do you have? What do you have to offer me?
Well, I can't say it won't be risky. I will, of course, disavow any knowledge of business dealings between the two of us, seeing as I have other partners who don't like competition, but I'm pretty sure you'll recognize this. And he has, a rather ornate looking necklace that he pulls out, and on the end of it is a vial of inky black liquid.
That does look familiar.
I thought you might recognize it. It's quite useful.
To hide tainted grain?
Let's say that's a minor inconvenience that I had to deal with. You're alerting the authority, telling my brother, dealing with all of that. I had nothing to do with tainted grain. I couldn't give half a shit less about the tithing to the Imperium. Pardon my heresy. But you're bringing attention to the Harvest Mother, this grain situation, could only bring the Imperium's eye to our community. And let's just say, I'm sure you can search the records. I'll give you this in good faith. The black ships, regardless of warp storms or not, haven't been here in quite some time. And I'd like that to continue.
Interesting.
I'm sure you could see how such a capability, and he kind of like dangles the substance again, might be useful in protecting psychers from the Imperium's iron fist, as it is.
They are useful tools indeed.
Of course, but again, used as tools. Whereas others may allow them more freedoms.
He chuckles as he thinks of Kynnoch.
With, of course, for a price. A very, very high price.
Well, some of this may be out of my hands at this point. I mean, now that the warp storms have receded, the Imperium obviously is again interested in the planet, mostly for the tithe. I would not be able to prevent black ships from coming. Even a rogue trader has no such power over things as these.
Oh, of course not. But so long as you don't bring attention to particular methodologies which conceal any need for black ships, of course they will only come or investigate further if they can detect the presence of a psyker. That's
Indeed.
what they do.
Well, Roderick has, and yourself by extension, does have psychers that belong to his house, to your house.
Of course, sanctioned, but we haven't had a sanctioned psyker since our current house's agent that you've met.
Let me ask you.
Carlos is the only one we've had. It's quite a fortunate coincidence for our citizens that none have been cursed with the plague of the warp.
Indeed. Let me ask you a question that you might be able to help me with. Maybe it relates tangentially to the business that we're currently discussing. There appears to be disturbance to the west that we believe may be responsible for the taint on the grain, if it's not your doing, of course.
And it isn't.
Would you be able to provide any information as to what may or may not be residing outside of the city?
I wouldn't know. I have no dealings with that. I barely spoke to any of the Harvest cult. I don't care to deal with those particular people. I mean, they're simple laborers, zealots with this tithe bullshit. My brother's responsible for that. That's his responsibility. I'm left to my own devices. And it just so happens my means allowed me opportunities that others wouldn't have. Opportunities to provide resources to particular parties who are interested without the Empire interfering. I assure you, with enough of this substance, even the most powerful psyker wouldn't be detected by any of the Imperium's best
Countermeasures.
Yeah, countermeasures. Yeah, or even by their best methods of detection. Doesn't take much.
I do not wish to become enmeshed in a power struggle between you and your brother.
Oh, it's not a struggle. You just simply make whatever problem you've found go away quickly, quietly, and I don't care. Whatever tithe, whatever. Your Imperial ships can come and pick up the grain as long as when my business partners are around, I certainly have the means to schedule so that any Imperial ships would not be in port. I'm safe that way. Perhaps you're safer that way. And perhaps both of us are richer that way. I know I will be. And in the meantime, everyone's happy. He gets to run his colony and be a faithful servant to the Imperium. And I get richer and richer and richer.
Well, there's something to be said for that, for sure.
And of course, I could buy my way off this fucking dirt hole anytime I want after that with the connections I've made. And I don't even have to worry about who I've dealt with. And he puts his hand down, and he certainly has his sword is. You don't really need to roll anything to know it's Xenos in origin, and quite formidable looking. There's like, think about it. I have a resource. Perhaps if you have business partners in need of another, in need of said resource, perhaps we could be making deals. In the meantime, you make this warp taint situation go away. Tell the Empire everything's fine. Make sure the ships come and go without any questions. I'll keep my business going. You keep your business going. And everyone's happy.
And what's my silence worth to you?
Well, I can certainly give you access. There aren't many, if any, who could access such abilities, contained in this liquid. Outside of that, perhaps if you're not willing to consider the big picture, I could offer you thrones, I suppose. Seems a little crass. I think this is worth quite more than any amount of currency that I could give you, but I can give you a piece of that. Or perhaps in exchange, when in need, I could get you difficult to obtain items in Imperial space.
You present me with an interesting offer. One that I will need to ponder on for a little bit. We don't have any intentions of leaving soon. We, as you say, must remedy the tainted grain situation.
Of course. Well, I'll let you think upon it. And I'll say think quickly, think quietly. And if I get any word back that my brother has heard of our conversation, then certainly your girlfriend might be in some amount of danger, if not yourself. You certainly are capable. But in some cases, let's just say technology and the ability to utilize it may overcome raw power and abilities. So, although I may not look like a military man, I certainly have equipment far beyond that of perhaps even some of the Crusaders themselves.
Venari just inclines his head to him like, okay, sure, whatever.
He's like, believe me or not, we'll be in touch. He stands up and walks out of the room.
He stays in the room. So he gets up and walks out. He just stays in the chair.
Okay.
And he'll sit there for, a few minutes, kind of digest, and then head back to the bedroom.
Okay. And scene.
Interesting. I guess I will have to message you on the side to throw out some particular ideas and things. Okay. Just so like player has some idea of what we're talking about. So cool. Jarnan will be so disappointed.
And you get that soundboard going. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Only if he knows about it.
Yeah. Well, and you're used to it probably anyway.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with this one. This is like the worst of the worst. For a fucking missionary. Yeah, not great.
Especially one who's hunted down psychers and is
it's not great because it's basically hiding and trading in unsanctioned psychers, which is super heresy. Especially when doing it either with or with the help of Xenos. Real bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
He's not going to be happy if he finds out.
That's assuming he finds out.
True.
He's going to find out.
He always does.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see like whether or not his brother shows up for breakfast or whatever. Like if there's a huge thing in the morning.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Good job, John.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a little more, cloak and dagger than straight up
Mm-hmm.
murder each other town.
I just imagine like the fully, like hint dropping going back and forth between the three of us, and whatever. Yeah. All right, I have to bail. I gotta go get my kid. Thanks everybody for watching. Buy coffee, leave reviews, do all the things. We'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Peace.
Right.
Yes.